Verbos regulares en el presente. Today we'll talk about present tense regular verbs in Spanish. You'll remember from Spanish 1 that verbs are conjugated based on the subject or subject pronoun. Here in the chart you'll see two columns, one for singular subject pronouns and another for the plural subject pronouns. Let's go through these real quick. Yo, tú, usted, él, ella. Nosotros, vosotros, ustedes, ellos, ellas. Okay, so a couple things to keep in mind. Notice that you see in these four little boxes here 4 ways to say you. Well, you have you singular on the left, and on the right you have you plural. In the South we use the word y'all instead of saying you all in many cases. Anyway, the reason for the different ways to say you, specifically formal and informal, in Spanish it differs a little bit from English. People that are older than you, we'll start with usted. People that are older than you or in a higher position, maybe they're your teacher or your boss at your job, those are people that you would treat as usted. Whereas your friends, people your own age, people that you know are on a first name basis with, you would call those people tú. Okay, so these subject pronouns are what you will use when you conjugate your verbs. Okay, so there are 3 types of irregular verbs. You remember AR, ER, and IR verbs exist in Spanish. Let's take a look at AR verbs. The first thing you have to do is to break the infinitive into parts. An example of an infinitive is given here for hablar. Hablar already has 2 parts. You have the stem, which is HABL, and then you have the ending, appropriately named because it comes at the end. This is the infinitive ending. Anytime a word ends with AR, anytime a verb ends with AR, it means to do something. In this case, hablar, to speak. Alright, AR endings. You'll notice here in this chart you have these subject pronouns, yo, tú, él, ella, usted, and so on. And right next to them you have the AR endings. So these endings are what you attach to the stem to make a conjugated verb. Okay, so the ending o by itself does nothing. Okay, you have to add it to a verb stem. So the AR endings are o, as, a, amos, ais, an. And one thing that we need to mention again is that vosotros, meaning you all, is mainly used in Spain. Okay, very few other places use vosotros. So we'll recognize it, but it won't be used as much in our course as it would, say, if you were to travel to España. Alright, let's see how these endings work with the verb hablar. Okay, so remember the first step is to isolate the stem, meaning take off that AR ending, and you're left with habla. Now we've got to make this word mean something. So let's start with the yo form. To say I speak, you say yo hablo, or simply hablo, because the ending o only works for the yo form. Next you have hablas, or tú hablas, meaning you speak. As only works with tú, so hablas works just as well as tú hablas. Okay? Next you have habla, but you'll notice that habla can work with 3 different people or groups of people. It could be él habla, ella habla, usted habla. So it is important to, in many cases, it's important to add the subject pronoun or the subject along with the word habla. If not, people may not know exactly who's speaking. Nosotros hablamos, and remember nosotros has a feminine form, nosotras, which would be nosotras hablamos. In Spain, you would say for you all speak would be vosotros habláis. And finally, you have hablan. Once again, since you have ellos, ellas, and ustedes, all going for matching with the conjugation hablan, it would be important to start your sentence off with the subject. For example, ustedes hablan mucho. Alright, and that's how you conjugate an AR verb. Here's a list of common AR verbs that you should remember from Spanish 1. Look them up if you don't remember them. Next, ER verbs. Very similar to AR. You break the infinitive into two parts. You have the stem and you have the ending. Alright, the ER endings are O, S, E, hemos, es, en. Pretty simple. You'll notice that the only thing that's different is, when you compare it to AR verbs, is you replace the A with an E. O, of course, stays the same. O, S, E, hemos, es, en. It's really important at the beginning to just recite the endings over and over. Get them in your head. O, S, E, hemos, es, en. Let's look at the verb comer. Comer is to eat. So the first thing you have to do, take off the ER. You're left with the stem, com. Com doesn't do anything until you add an ending to it. Now we have como, or yo como, I eat. Comes, tú comes. Come, it's important to say, él come, ella come, o usted come. Now we have nosotros comemos, or feminine, nosotras comemos. Vosotros coméis, vosotras coméis. Ellos comen, ellas comen, ustedes comen. Don't forget to add that subject. Common ER verbs. Some of these verbs, I'm not sure if you learned them in Spanish 1, but they're good to know. For example, prender is to turn on, while aprender is to learn. Romper, to break. Prometer, to promise. Esconder, to hide. IR verbs. Just like AR and ER, guys. Take off the ending, start with the stem. The endings are similar yet different from IR verbs. You have O, S, E, imos, is, en. The only two that are different when compared to ER endings are imos and is. The rest are the same. The verb is vivir, to live. Vivir means to live. Viv is your stem. So, yo vivo, tú vives, él vive, ella vive, usted vive. Put in the subject. Nosotros vivimos, nosotras vivimos. Vosotros vivís, vosotras vivís. Ellos viven, ellas viven, ustedes viven. Common IR verbs you'll see right here. New one could be ocurrir, to occur. Transmitir is to send or to transmit. For example, to send an email. Imprimir is to print. Describir, to describe. That's it. Adios.